Alright, what's up? So today I'll be doing a midfielder guide, and I've been asked about this a lot. Like, a lot. I've gotten DMs and stuff, I've gotten questions and stuff. So, honestly, if I'm gonna be very honest with you, I just didn't want to do it because there's so much to cover. And I did do a defending guide, which ended up taking 26 minutes. And I don't want videos to be too long, but if you guys enjoy this sort of thing, just let me know. Just drop a comment below. But before I get into this, I just want to say that I do have a server for individual coaching, so one-on-one, or just teaching people in general. So I'll leave that in the description below, and if you want help, personal help, and if you think this isn't in-depth enough, then you can always just go to that server and let me know. Just drop me a ping, create a ticket, whatever, right? But yeah, anyways, I'm not gonna waste any more of your time. Let's get right into it. Okay, so to start off, I want to talk about the three types of midfielders there are, or just midfielding positions in general. So there's a central midfielder, which is a CM. There's a central defensive midfielder. I mean, okay, it's not really central, it's just midfielder, so I'm just going to talk about that. There's a normal midfielder, there's a defensive midfielder, and then there is a attacking midfielder. So you'll see a lot of positions like CAM or CDM or just CM. So the C stands for central. And by central, they mean just like in the middle of the field, and you just go anywhere you want, really, as long as, you know, you're in this sort of vicinity, right? Not all the way towards the wing. But yeah, so to talk about the roles, defensive midfielders, what they really do is they help with the transition from defense to offense. Like as in long passers, and people that help just with the defense in general, interceptions, and just general pressure, okay? They apply a lot of pressure to the players. As a normal midfielder, like a center mid, you'll be running up and down all the time, and the work rate has to be really, really high. So you'll be going to the box sometimes. So it's like a box-to-box midfielder. So you'll be going to your box, to their box, you'll be helping with playmaking, etc, etc. Now, a CAM, or an attacking midfielder, is someone who stays all the way up here, and their main job is to help with playmaking and scoring goals. So they're not contributing to defense at all, or not much at all. And their main purpose is to help with the attack. So that's why they're called attacking midfielders. Okay, so now that you know the differences between the types of midfielders and the positions, I'm going to be talking about, you know, just what a midfielder is. And the role of a midfielder in a team is to initiate attack, or, you know, just initiate some sort of play and help balance out the attack and the defense. You're kind of like the middleman in the team, and you're helping the offense score goals, and you're helping the defense bring the ball back up. So, the one thing I do want to highlight is your passing has to be above average to become at least an okay midfielder, right? So you can have really good defensive skills, but then be mediocre at passing, and you'd be considered a bad midfielder, because passing is like the one thing that you really, really need. And I went into the midfielder position because number one, I like passing, and two was that I was good at it. So I just ended up being a midfielder naturally, rather than having to force myself to learn it. So yeah. Another thing you really need as a midfielder is composure and decision making, although this will come later on. I'll explain it in depth later on, but I'm just highlighting the things that you do need. Like, you need a good amount of awareness, you need decision making, you need good passing, but yeah. Now, let's get into it with like the responsibilities of a midfielder. So in my opinion, I think the main thing is like ball distribution. So the way I play is more passive rather than aggressive with this sort of build that I'm using, Riptide and Destruction. With my old build, which is Athlete and Sword Screw or Copycat, I'd play more offensive, I'll play more aggressively. So what I'd do as a midfielder is I'd go up with my attackers and help them do like a build-up play. Whereas with this sort of build, like this long passing build, I just kind of do passive passes that allow the people to make their own plays, allow my players to make their own plays. So if I have clips, I'll show you on the screen, but if not, then, well, there's just nothing on the screen. But these are the few things that you have to do, okay? You have to link play. Alright, so you'll be connecting the defense and the attack, like I said before. You'll be distributing the ball to your teammates, you'll be giving it to the wingers, you'll be giving it to the strikers. You're also gonna like backtrack to your defense and help them tackle the ball from behind, or just apply pressure in general. So you'll be the first one to press rather than waiting for them to come towards you. You have to be the first one to press, even if you don't get the ball. I think the main thing that you have to do is press, because defensively it applies a lot of pressure, and it can, you know, really, really help your team out. The next thing is like, it's not just defense, like I said, it's a good balance of both. In offense, you have to make sure you can shoot as well. Although this is a guide, I'm gonna show you how to do all of this in a sec. I'm just highlighting what you're gonna need, okay, as like a top midfielder. So you need to be able to shoot as well. try to look for scoring opportunities, and create as many chances as you possibly can for your team. So, yeah. Now, let's move on to how to actually do all of this. So, I've already described what you have to do, but I'm going to describe how to actually do it. So, I'm going to talk in the perspective of a central midfielder now because they kind of cover everything. And I won't be getting into an attacking midfielder's gameplay or a defensive midfielder's gameplay because it's kind of just a very similar thing. It's just a position diff and a few build diff, but the build isn't that different. Honestly, it's you can use the same build for every single midfielder position. It's not that deep. Okay, so first things first, let's get into positioning. Now, positioning as a midfielder is like one of the most important things that you need. I'd say it's probably the most important because it allows you to intercept passes. It allows you to receive passes from your team. It also allows you to trick your opponent sometimes. So let's say you're like in defense all the way and they don't see you running up to an open space. You could be open for a shot. So although it's kind of hard to explain, I think you get the point. So, okay. Now, how do I position myself good enough for my teammates to understand that I'm free for a ball? So, number one thing, receiving, okay? Now, your receiving, mechanics-wise, has to be good. So, even if you're 5'3", even if you're 6'3", or 5'9", whatever height it may be. So, from 5'3" to, let's say, 5'7", okay? You want to be able to ground receive well. So, by ground receive, I mean receive like this. So, this sort of receiving. And you need to have good timing when it comes to receiving. Now, if you're talking about 5'9" and above, then you want to be able to chest receive. So air receive, chest bump pretty well. So these mechanics I won't be covering. I'm just telling you that you need this. I won't be covering mechanics because I covered that in the air dribbling guide, I'm pretty sure, or in one of the videos. And you can go check that out for yourself. But what you need to be able to do is receive well and understand where you're receiving before you even receive. So now, first things first, you want to be able to stand in front of your defender because a lot of defenders do end up crumbling under pressure. And I'm sure if you play in scrims or pickups or whatever it's called in different regions, you can clearly see that a lot of defenders have hardly any vision. They're just really focused on defending and they don't know where to pass. So the way you communicate with their defender also matters a lot. So what you want to try to do is you want to try to tell them, yo, I'm in front of you. Can you pass it to me? I'm in front of you. I'm on your left. I'm on your right. So one thing I use personally, in my opinion, which is really good, is that I tell it in a perspective of, like, in their perspective. So let's say this is the field, okay? This is the field perspective. Now, if I'm facing here, I'd say look to your left. Let's say I'm here and my defender's the ball over there. I'd say, yo, can you pass it up the left? Because this side is their left, not mine. This is my right, but it's their left. So it's easier for them to understand. And once you get used to it, it's really easy and really helpful because it helps the defender see you better once you tell them where you are because they don't have to look around the field for a pass and just say, yo, I'm free, pass it up high to me. So by saying up high, for me, it's easier for me to receive. But let's say you're a short midfielder, so you can go and tell your defender, yo, can you pass it low to me? I'm on your left, I'm in front of you, I'm free. So you gotta keep reminding your defender or anyone that you're receiving a pass from that, hey, I'm free, you can always use me as an option. I think that's the one thing that really helps me with my gameplay is just telling people that you're free or just encouraging them to pass to you. Because once you do that, it helps with a lot of pressure to be relieved. And if you can hold the ball well, then it just helps your team relax a little more, which is really good. Now, that's about it for positioning. For attacking, positioning, try to stay as I'm talking about center mid. So as a center midfielder, I'd say try staying around here. In my experience, I stay around here because it helps me take a shot as well with this build. It helps me take a shot and it also helps me get any rebounds that might come through from like Serpent or any sort of rebound from like a GK. So now this will, you know, from here, let's move on to passing, okay? Now let's say I'm in this position. For passing, I'd say in this position, what you want to do is play short passes. So you don't want to go back, you don't want to go back to your defense. Try to apply as much pressure as you can to your opponent by just constantly distributing passes as in this sort of position. I'm talking specifically in this scenario. I just thought it'd be a good time. So yeah, you want to go from here and you want to pass it to your wing or your striker. Just apply as much pressure as you can when you get a rebound. Now, what do you do with passes in an actual midfielder, like a midfield situation? So let's say you're in the midfield and this is like the actual middle of the field. And let's say there's two people in front of you. There's a winger on your left, there's a winger on your right, okay? So what you want to try to do is try to play short passes to maintain position. Use 1-2s as much as you can. And like I said, in this sort of play, you need to have good receiving. No matter what, you need to have composure and good receiving. So work on that before you do any of this. So the more you play, the better you'll get at it. That's obvious, but I think experience is really underrated by a lot of people, and the more you play, the better it'll be. It's just a good amount of learning curve is what I'd say. So what you want to try to do is play 1-2s as much as you can, and just try to get through the midfield and pass it off to your forward. So when you're starting off as a midfielder, don't try to do any fancy plays, do the basics. That's what I did. Once you do the basics down, once you get them down and they become muscle memory and just natural, like second nature for you, that's when you can move on to like proper playmaking, and it'll allow you to make quicker decisions because you don't have to think about where to pass. Oh, I don't know where to pass. Oh, I don't know who to pass to. Like, once you get the basics down, you really don't have to think about all that. Like I said, I mentioned this about a CDM before, but you do this as a CM as well. You want to try to press as much as you can. So let's say there's a few attackers approaching me here. There's 2 attackers approaching me here. So and there's defenders, like my own defenders are behind me. I wouldn't back off with them. I'd be the first one to press the person. Because, again, you're not a defender, you're a midfielder. So you're supposed to take the first action. You're the initiator for a press, you're the initiator for an attack. So you have to take initiative. So you press and you tell your defense, yo, go back, it's okay, I'll press him. So they can cover the spaces that might be open when they want to press. So you press for them, and it allows them to have a more sort of like a wider view of the field because they're not pressing them. And, you know, it just helps your team out a lot because you're, well, applying pressure. So, and potentially stealing the balls, which is also good. So yeah, now that's done, like specific like instructions or specific guidelines on how to play your position in like a certain situation, I want to talk about just general awareness that you need as a midfielder, because I think that's really, really important. Like, you want to always look around the field. You always want to see where your teammates are. And a few very common plays that you can use all the time are 1-2s. You can use long passes to just relieve a lot of pressure from your team. And you can always just give the pass, tell them, or like be a holding midfielder, ask for a pass, hold the ball, and give it back. It doesn't always have to be a 1-2. It can also be just like a hold-up play, right? So you can hold the ball in the midfield, and then you can push it up slowly. Because the slower you play, the more impatient your team will get. The opponent team will get, like 99% of the time, unless they know that you're going to do that. They will get impatient, and that'll allow you to find more opportunities to pass and just make a better play, in my opinion. But a lot of people lack the mechanics or just the awareness in general to hold the ball, and they end up just like walking forward kind of like dumbasses. So I don't really recommend that sort of play unless your team is really, really good. Because when you're learning as a solo midfielder, what you really want to try to do is play make as much as you can and just pass the ball off. Like I said, your main role is like a transition from the defense to the offense. So if your forwards are good, if you know your forwards are good, then honestly you don't have to bother much. Just try to give like the best pass possible. Now let's talk about some more advanced stuff. So rather than just 1-2s, let's talk about a little more stuff, okay? Now, one thing I see a lot of people not using a lot is switching plays. Okay, let me first get into what switching play is. Now, switching the play is basically switching the ball from one side to another. So if I'm on the right side, I'd switch to the left, and this will allow me to create a lot of space. Let's say there's a lot of defenders in front of me. Like, there's like 3 in front of me, and that space is really open. What you want to do is either pass back to your defense if you don't have long passes. Pass back to your defense and allow them to switch the play to the left. So the field gets more like spread out and you have more gaps to walk through or find a like pass through, right? And switching play also does give your team a little bit of time to think on what to do next. And another thing is, well, it's kind of related to positioning. It's off the ball movement. So what you want to try to do is always look for open spaces where your team can use you as like an anchor. At most times, if you have a good forward, they'll use you as an anchor. They'll take their time. So your main role will be to hold the ball in that sort of situation when you're acting as an anchor. So try to find an open space, get the defenders towards you, and then pass it off. That's the one play I do a lot. I'm good at holding the ball. So what I do is I drag the defenders towards me, and then I give a long pass to the other side. So it's kind of the mix of switching play and off the ball movement at the same time. So yeah, it just allows you to, you know, spread out the field a little more and give your forwards a little more options. So the one thing I also want to emphasize about being a midfielder is that you have to be very selfless at times, and you cannot take shots like this when you're like, especially when you're starting. Like, you cannot take shots like this all the time, even if you know they're gonna go in. Like, even if you think, oh, 9 out of 10 times it always goes in, I can shoot. Don't always do that. Just, for me, in my opinion, I always take the best option. So if I think I can score and that's the only best option there, I take it. But if you think there's a better option, you have to be selfless and you have to take the, you have to do the pass. So just don't be selfish. That's like the one thing about a midfielder that you have to kind of compromise is being able to score goals and stuff. The next thing I want to talk about is just communication in general. This isn't just related to the game. I think it's in general about locked when you're playing in like a serious game or just a scrim or like a match. I think communication is really important. So if you don't have a mic, being a midfielder is like kind of hard. But if you do have a mic and you talk in VC, then I think being a midfielder is fairly easy as long as you know the basics down. So what you want to try to do is try to communicate as much as you can. Try to guide your team to what to do. And you kind of have to be the leader at most times when you're the main midfielder, okay? So what you want to try to do is you want to try to tell them like where to pass or where the teammates are, where your enemies are. You kind of want to guide them, not just spoon feed them, but try to be like kind of like supporting, even with your comms, even if it's like not a direct play that's involving you. I think supporting comms will also be really helpful for your team. But I mean, yeah, communication is really, really important in my opinion. Okay, so one thing I see a lot of midfielders doing is like a lot of common mistakes, such as overcommitting to the attack and leaving like the defense exposed. So what a lot of midfielders would do is they'd come up all the way here till the attack, and then let's say they take a shot or they pass it off and it doesn't work, right? They pass it off over there and it doesn't work. So they just like wait here. They'd try to press once and then they don't get the ball and then they just wait here. So what you want to try to do is track back and apply as much pressure as you can, even if you know you're not going to be involved in the next play. You can always just try to do as much as you possibly can. So don't give up on the ball too early is what I'm trying to say. Now the exact opposite of that is just holding the ball for too long. So a lot of people end up over dribbling and not knowing what to do. This is like the #1 mistake I've seen a lot of people do, is they end up holding the ball a lot, even if there's a lot of open spaces or just options. They end up holding the ball and they're like, oh no, I'm gonna find a really good pass. Sometimes simple passes are the best passes in my opinion, where you don't have to think much and you don't always need a complicated play. So all you gotta do is just M2 and release. It's that simple, all you have to do, because I see a lot of people in Asia not knowing how to normally pass, which is really annoying. But I think that's the one thing I have to emphasize on, where you hold the ball for too long and you end up losing it, you'll be pulling your team's morale down. You'll also be potentially conceding a goal. So you want to try to avoid that as much as you can. And this is when you're attacking. So if you're like purposely holding the ball and you know you're going to pass it off, that's fine. But if you're holding the ball with no sort of plan, then that's bad, and you don't want to do that. Try to avoid that as much as you physically can, and it'll just help your team be more organized when you don't hog the ball. Now, a lot of people have been asking me for builds and stuff, so I'm gonna give you like a general build that is really good for any midfielder. So if you're playing CDM or CM, I suggest going 6'3" athlete with any weapon that you want. A weapon like Kunigami, Riptide, even Planetary, Shadow, these weapons are all really, really good. I already have a weapon tier list on my channel, but that's old. But it's not like it doesn't include all the weapons. They haven't added any new weapons. It's just the only thing they've added since that tier list is, I think, the traits. So that doesn't matter much. You can always go watch that video if you're confused on which weapon to go for. But I think the main 3 weapons are Copycat. So you can use any weapon you want depending on the situation. Riptide right now, after the rework, and Kunigami. So I think these 3 weapons are like the most commonly used and also the most useful ones in my opinion, due to the short cooldowns and just the versatility. So Riptide has a 20-second cooldown. I can't show it right now, but Riptide has a 20-second cooldown. You can do straight Riptide like this. You can also do short passive with Riptide. You can do this. You can do curve passes like this. So I think Riptide's really, really versatile. You can also take shots with straight. So that's #1 why Riptide's so used. Copycat just allows you to go whatever weapon you want, and it's just more versatile, like I said. And Kunigami also has a 20-second cooldown, allows long passes, and can also let you shoot. So I think those are the 3 good midfielder weapons that you want to try to aim for. And if you're going to decide on a height, I wouldn't say there's a height that's best for midfielder, because it just depends on your playstyle. But I think mainly what you should aim for is 6'3" or 5'9" as a midfielder, because it gives you a lot of options. So as a 5'9", you have a lot of stamina, So you can go up and down the field how much ever you want without having to worry about stamina much. And with 6'3", you can intercept passes better. You have lesser stamina, but you have more power. And you also have more height. So if you want to end up air dribbling later on for like creating space, then it's really easy. But if you're going to go 5'3", then you do need a good amount of communication, so make sure you know that. Because when you're going to play 5'3", you need good 1-2s, you need good passing, and I think 5'3" is just a more height that's like less versatile but requires more skill. So I wouldn't see why anyone would play 5'3" midfielder unless you have a really well-coordinated team. So those are like the builds I recommend. For your trait, you can go long strides, you can go athlete. I usually suggest athlete because 5'9" athlete is good, 6'3" athlete is good. If you're playing CDM, you could go bunnies to intercept more passes and use like bunnies Kurigami with a 6'3" build to maximize your long pass and also your interception. But yeah. Now, a few other plays that I want to talk about that might help you later on is counterattacks. So counterattacks are just quick counters. So if you don't know what a counterattack is, it's basically when you get the ball off like a very heavy attack that they push on you. Let's say there's 4 people attacking me, and the midfielders are up, the defenders are up. So when you get the ball, the first thing you want to do is pass it off. You don't want to hold the ball at all. Quick counterattacks, the whole point of having a counterattack is that you retrieve the ball, which was unexpected, and it allows you to set up a quick attack, which would potentially, like 9 out of 10 times, end up in a goal because the opponent made a mistake. So always remember that every game of Locked, or just football in general, does not have, like, it's not perfect. It always has mistakes. So you want to be able to look at those mistakes and you'll be able to take advantage of them as much as you can. That's really all I can cover about midfielding. It was actually lesser than I expected, so honestly I don't mind. But just to finish it off, I just want to highlight the main things. You need composure. You need to be able to stay calm under pressure as much as you can. You want to be able to think and make good decisions based on your opponent's strategy and just playstyle in general. And also prioritize, like, you always have to be able to prioritize your team's like success rather than your own goals or your own own success. I think that's the one thing that really matters as a midfielder, is just being able to let go of the ball and be as versatile as possible. But yeah, I think that's all for the midfielding guide. And if you have any questions, you can always join my Discord. You can always join the training center thing I have, and you can get personalized coaching if you really want. But I think this should cover everything that you need. And if you want more help, you can always come to me, like I said. Make sure you subscribe, it does help a lot. And if you don't like the content, you can always unsubscribe, it's free. And we're really close to 4,000, so hopefully we can reach that in the next few weeks, is what I'm hoping. But yeah, anyways, I will see you guys in the next one. I hope you enjoyed. Bye bye.